Hey everyone, it's about 10 p.m. right now on a Saturday. I don't say that to brag. I say that because I've actually been away on vacation and recently getting back into it. I'm currently working outside of my day job Monday to Friday right now on our Bootcamp Tech Sales Ascension. Been putting in a lot of time and just wanted to take a quick break. This is something that was on my mind last week while I was on vacation, and also today while I'm working on a Saturday, which I gladly do and I enjoy much more than many other activities. I just wanted to make a video about work-life balance in tech sales. Whether you're in tech sales trying to break in, or I know many people I speak with that are in tech sales have entrepreneurial aspirations. I just wanted to paint a picture of both my own story and also some things I've seen recently online, whether it's working a ton or this idea that you can work 20 hours or so and make $500K a year, right? What I want to talk through is both my own experience quickly as an engineer, because I way overworked myself back in that time period of my life, and also in tech sales. And right out of the gate in tech sales, I will tell you, if you're breaking in or you're trying to be an SDR, I'm not going to say work 100 plus hours a week, but you need to expect that if you want to succeed quickly and move to account executive, you want to set yourself up long-term for success, that first and second year, you're not really going to have a lot of work-life balance. And it really is going to require of you, yes, I've mentioned before, work efficiently in your 9 to 5, maybe work 8 to 10 hours a day in that job, but especially year one, when you're outside of work, you're listening to podcasts, you're reading books, you're doing everything you can to really accelerate and tap into the exponential growth that sales provides. I will say from my own career experience in engineering, I was an engineer right out of college. I really wanted to try hard and progress quickly. There's not as much, both because I was at a large company and engineering tends to be a lot slower, a lot more bureaucratic, but I worked myself to the bone. I was working 10 to 14 hours a day. I was also training that time as well to try and stay fit and compete with Team USA in the sport of team handball. And while I'm glad I did that, I would never do that again. I spent 3 years of my life basically working 12 to 14 hours a day, trying to also train in the meantime, and it really just completely wore me out, and I don't recommend it from the standpoint that it's not sustainable. If I was in that situation again, I would do that again and I would make those same decisions. But you need to understand that if you have done that, if you have made those sacrifices early on, it's not that you take your foot off the gas. You learn how to better leverage things and opportunities in a way that suits you and allows you not to necessarily work less, but always be working on very, very important things. I'll tell you, even with the growth of this channel, when I first started, I edited every single video. I've recently got an editor in place. I also scrutinized every little detail. I would shoot things, reshoot things, etc. And the further you get a body of work, I think directly applicable to tech sales, the more you do the SDR role. When you switch to a closing role, the more you close deals, the more you lose deals, you start to develop intuition and a gut instinct about things that are more likely to close, more likely to be wins in the first place. And it's not that you're working less, but you learn how to better allocate that time on the things that are very critical. So instead of spinning your wheels with that client that you realize is probably not going to close anyway, you're willing to have that difficult conversation up front and instead not work during that time, but that one extra deal that's looking really good, that 500K opportunity that you now have in pipeline, instead of wasting time, an hour of a conversation with this person, you're spending that hour now going deeper into that account, researching further, asking someone for lunch if you're in proximity or going to an on-site, whatever it might be, right? You're spending all that time and energy on the higher return on investment activities. And on the note of working hard, I just want to reiterate, especially early in your career, you don't know what you don't know. It will benefit you to really push in year one, year two, maybe year three, really, really hard, to then have the ability to look back and say, wow, I spent a lot of wasted time doing this. I could have done this better, or I could have spent my time here. But again, if you don't do that in the first place, you're not really going to develop that instinct and feel to tap into, again, the exponential path that sales can provide. And also, you're going to be selling yourself short, not really knowing what you're capable of. And I'd also make a point to say, I really advocate disconnecting from work as much as you can. Now, again, this is not saying work less, but it's saying set clear boundaries. I've really made a point over this last year, especially prior to that, when I was an SDR, when I was early in my career as an account executive, I thought it was a great thing to respond to people instantly, to always be on Slack, to always check my email, and especially the higher up I go, one, I see how many of those messages don't necessarily matter in the sense that if I respond to them tonight at 9 p.m. or first thing at 9 a.m. the next day, it's not going to make a difference. And two, also, especially with prospects and internal people at your own company, company, if you are responding to these messages, you set the expectation that you're always ready to respond. You're always willing to work. And it becomes more difficult over time, especially in the example of after hours, to really set boundaries and step away from that over time. And really the only reason I've gotten better at that is, one, I recently made a job change. So coming into this new environment, I was able to look back on my experience and set clear boundaries, and also just ask myself, is this message important if I respond right now or at the beginning of the next day? And two, I'll tell you, with the growth of this channel, with the growth of our platform, Tech Sales Ascension, I've had to stop, and I've actually enjoyed it. I can no longer offer one-on-one calls. I can't take one-on-one coaching even if people are willing to pay $200 an hour, because it's much more effective and I can help a lot more people through our platform by grouping, having group live calls, and also allowing messaging within the platform as an example of many different things. But all that to say, you see that I'm not saying I'm working less. I'm busier arguably than I ever have been, because I spent a lot of wasted time doing things that didn't necessarily have an immediate return on investment. When I'm going to create Tech Sales Ascension, when I'm creating videos and looking for an editor, when I'm in my day job now, I'm much more able to ask myself when I'm starting to do something, in the example of sales, is this deal really worthwhile? Do I need to have the hard conversation with the prospect to see if they're even serious in the first place, and be willing to accept that if they're not, I need to close that deal, move on, and find something else? In the example of building my business on the side as well, it got to a point where, if I'm being honest, at my last job, this channel, the things that I was doing were actually starting to interfere with my day-to-day activities. And it's because it started to grow rather quickly that it became a problem. And I'll tell you, on both sides, one, in your day job, after, again, you've spent maybe 2 to 3 years getting really good at your job, working a ton, you earn the right, you earn the leverage, and you have the instinct to really understand what's worth putting your time and attention on and what doesn't matter as much. I don't want this to turn into like a classic time management standpoint, but again, if you are entrepreneurial in nature, you're just getting into tech sales, honestly, I recommend the first year or two solely focus on tech sales. Yes, learn other materials, read things, maybe start something on the weekends, but 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, arguably 10 to 12 hours a day your first year, really keep that focus on the day job, because if you get really good at that and you understand what it took to become so much better than your peers in such a short time frame, you can really apply that to other avenues of your life, like starting a business, etc. Then, as you get smarter, as you maybe have a little bit of success with your side business, you've got those parameters and you understand how to leverage your time and efforts in tech sales, and now you can spend more time on the day job and also approach it with that same mentality. What are things that I could do in group settings as opposed to individual? Is it worth, even if someone's paying me $200 an hour to coach them, is it worth that, or creating a course that can answer all of those questions and more in a group format, right? And also on the note of vacation, again, I very much advocate for clean breaks, especially when possible. It's almost impossible in sales, but when you have maybe a week of time, really communicate that to key stakeholders, certainly internally, and also customers at your company that you're talking to, trying to close deals with. Make it very clear. Try and take that time off. But I will tell you, I don't take my time off just to chill. I don't take my time off just to like go drink and do some crazy stuff. This last week, I was on vacation. I went skiing for the first time in almost 15 years. The last time I did, I dislocated my shoulder, and I was actually really scared of it. By the end of this week, I dropped in off of a mountain that was 13,000 feet in the air, and I also did a lot of things that I wasn't expecting and pushed myself in a great way. The last vacation I had, yes, I baked some relaxation into it, but the first thing I did, I landed in Germany on Thursday. I ran the Berlin Marathon on Sunday. And these are the types of things, again, I'm not saying the perfect balance, you have to experiment yourself, but if you're really ambitious, when you're off time, definitely disconnect from work, from the side business that you're building, but don't think that relaxation is necessarily an end in of itself or going to make you recharge. I enjoy highly physical activities that push me beyond my limits, because when I get through with those, I am able to relax. And I build time on both sides. I don't want to get too far off track from the individual day-to-day grind of tech sales. But my point being is, if you think that coming into tech sales or even a couple years into your career, you're going to be able to work 20 to 30 hours a week, if you have the ambition to be a top performer consistently, if you have the ambition to build a business on the side, that's just not the reality. And again, you've got to figure this out. And early on, I'd say it's worth probably pushing yourself to burnout. understand what that is, what that looks like, reap the rewards of pushing yourself that hard. But now in hindsight, when you reach a point where you can't go any further, look back and ask yourself, are there things that I'm putting a ton of urgent priority on that don't need to be at the forefront of my activity? Are there things that are not getting me a reward, or are there inefficient activities, whether it's your side business, it's taking you forever to get a client? Are there ways you can reconstruct your offering to sell more to a broader audience, et cetera, right? And internally at your company, you would be amazed, but if done effectively and if you are truly knowledgeable about what you're doing, people are going to respect the fact that you maybe aren't available all the time, that you're only willing to come in on conversations that truly are driving value. If done consistently, if done correctly, people will respect that and see you as someone who's very good and efficient at what they do. And I digress. If there's any takeaway, my sister is actually a director at a large and growing public tech company. One of the things that she said as well is she used to think that she wanted to hire that person who was going to run through a wall, who was going to work 80 to 100 hours a week to prove themselves. And there's no sweet spot per se, but she's changed her mentality a bit over time in the sense that she actually likes someone who can come in and in 40 to 50 hours a week get their job done, because that means they're actually doing what they need to do and they actually understand what the most important activities are in the first place, which long-term will make them a much better asset to her team and to the company overall. There's no right answer here, and if you have questions or thoughts below, comment below. I would love to get your feedback and have a conversation around it, and we'll see you in our next video. Thanks.